Yeah,
right.
you're good to go, Mikael.
Thank you. So this is going to be a small little example where I'm hoping to at least show you some useful things. For a lot of this is probably familiar territory for people who have been sort of veterans of the type of Unix systems we all work in, but maybe there's a nugget of knowledge for everyone here. Except if you were one of those people, I think, Åke, who didn't like the use of rich. Look away now. So first, the default experience that most of us are probably doing most of our EB working. You're in a RHEL, approximately RHEL 8 system. You're in Bash, you're over SSH, and probably using Vim. Terminal is pretty much black and white. Your ls command maybe shows some colors for like directories and then PNG images or something like that. And your editor doesn't really know what to make of EB files. So this is what it typically looks like. I hope the screen swapping works. You see my terminal, I hope. Here is my sort of dumping grounds of files. Maybe you're a bit more organized than me, but this hurts for me to look at. Similarly, your sort of terminal experience is editing a EasyConfig file. If your EasyConfigs look anything like this when you open them in an editor, I feel a bit sorry for you. But fortunately, I'm here to help. So the basics here, right? The first thing I had was, you can just install rich, right? And get a bit more, but you heard about that yesterday. So thanks for spoiling that, Kenneth. The basics. Furthermore, we can also set ls colors. Now, this took me the longest time before I actually did it, even though it was so simple. Most of you probably have some, if you're on a RHEL system, you'll find this environment variable defined for you in some profile D, but you can add a bunch of custom colors to it here and spice up and make some specific files pop a bit more in the terminal. So you can pick your favorite colors here by dumping out this little script. I will post all this script in the thread in Slack afterwards, so you can copy paste from there. But let's see what it looks like here. But first of all, if I run this little test code, we can see all the colors I have to pick from. And if I actually do this and try to do an ls here, we can see that I tone down all these output files that the job submit stuff does for me. And I get all the EB files pop out a bit more here compared to the default behavior. So this is just immediately helpful, at least for me, to help me identify ignore all the cruft. But there is more. The slightly more advanced things is that we can also tell your editor that EB files are just Python scripts. So this is at least the very basics here. So if I at least tell my editor that this is Python code, we get something that tells us if we've missed like closing a bracket or something that would be difficult to see without syntax highlighting. So this is the basic step we can all do to improve our editing experience, but we can do even better. You can add a little plugin here for telling Vim how to detect that something is a new type of syntax. You can tell it about a new type of file. So for .eb files here, I claim that this is an EasyBuild syntax. And we can create a custom EasyBuild Vim syntax highlighting by, obviously, we don't want to reinvent the wheel here, so we can edit this one and start off by telling it that it should be just a standard Python syntax highlighting, but we can add a few keyword and match rules to enrich some of the things that we have. And in order for it to work with all the standard color schemes, you'll have to pick from one of these categories. You can be specific and tell that this is a string and this is a character and this is a number, But with most of these themes, it will only be colored the same way if it's a constant of some sort. So in the end, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different types of highlighting you can do in your code by the default schemes. But we don't need all that much anyway. I kind of piggybacked on the define statement. That seems pretty good for defining a bunch of predefined constants that we have, like arch, system, source lower, tar, gz, and so on. So this is a pretty long list, but it's a pretty fixed list. We rarely modify this unless Jasper is renaming everything for EasyBuild 5. But we can also make some generic statements for matching our templates here. And for some reason, I decided let's try to do that with some regex things, because we have some pretty fixed patterns. So I used a regex generator to generate a bunch of regexes that I can match for when they are contained in a Python string, and we match this type of pattern. Then I denote it as a macro. Now, the define and macro are the same color schemes regardless, but we can see what this looks like if I actually enable my syntax highlighting. We can see that, oh, I get the syntax highlighting here for the CUDA version. So if I were to actually make a typo in here, I can notice it very clearly, because it's no longer highlighted. Same way if I misspell system as system, it will immediately pop out as wrong to me. So this is very useful if you ever have to specify that something has a source lower tar gz. No, is it source lower? Oh yeah, so this might be depending on the rules that you, if you don't remember the specific version of our inconsistently named constants, this sort of theme will help you identify it. And we can also do a few minor things here, like maybe detecting if we have a trailing space, so that we don't have to edit, fix that, upload a new pull request, where we do a style check highlighting. So I like to include this one, but it's a bit difficult to do a much more complex thing here with these simple Vim scripts. So that's all I bothered to include so far. And you can also do something with Emacs, I suppose, but I don't know much about that. But here at least the two equivalent first steps of making something that is akin to what we did in this Vim RC. Some more goodies that I would recommend for people to do is enable some sort of bash completion here. For example, if I want to install Python bundle 2023 py06, I get some very, very fast bash completion here. I have written my custom bash completion script, which is a bit more clever than the ones that are shipped with EasyBuild. I know precisely where my robot paths are, and I do some very quick lookup into these robot paths with find to just detect which .eb files that I can build. But I also make it a bit more clever, as in I don't want to resolve the robot paths when I do a new PR. Then I clearly want to specify a local file that I want to upload. It's not already in my robot paths. And so I have a few extra rules here, like if I complement something on the command line, I only look for EB, patch, or Python files. That's the only files I've ever had as inputs to EasyBuild under any scenarios. And the Py file is only there for if you want to open a new PR with an easy block, for example. So this just cuts down on the number of things, especially if you are in a terminal where you have a whole bunch of, let's see here, But should I grab something where I have a, let's say this libtecla file here, which I also have an environment file, and the it will only tab complete the .eb file. This has been my frustration a lot of times, where you tab complete and you get to the E and yeah, I have an env file as well. So this is just speed things up. I also only include some of the command line options, because these are the only ones I sort of ever use from the command line. And if I ever need to reach for one of the more obscure ones, I'll just type it out. So I only want the quick and easy ones here, so I can very quickly update PR commit message, and so on. So this just really speeds up work, especially I no longer search for anything, because the tab completion is 10 times faster than doing an EB-S. So that's, I will share those scripts as well after the talk. Some other very, very minor tips that I would recommend to anyone using EasyBuild for a longer time is just set up a couple of aliases. This is just tremendously useful for things that you will routinely do. I have, for example, just for submitting building on a GPU, I just specify the GPU type I want. For most of them, it's just the one GPU on an 800 here. So I just do build GPU and I just type in the EasyConfig name and off it goes. Especially since I do this on several different architectures, I don't need to specify on this system, I'm building for a V100. On this one, I'm building for an 800. I have this set up in my bash RC, so I can just throw this alias on that system and it will build the correct thing. I also have some other minor scripts for doing a lot of maintenance work here. Reviewing a PR requires you to specify it. The review PR doesn't work well with custom naming schemes. So I just probe mine to always use the default naming scheme here for doing this, and a few other tweaks. Another thing that isn't really that difficult to do, it's surprisingly easy here, is to write a little bash function that switches working modes. If I want to test something, I do testing and I switch over to my test tree where I can build to my heart's content without interrupting anything for any of the users. So I just swap out which module path I'm using and just load the EasyBuild from that tree and set a custom prompt so I see that I'm in the testing environment currently and not doing a production build. So I use some colors here to highlight when it's green, I can build whatever I want because I'm in the test tree. And then I just switch back to production with a prod keyword when I build something for real. That also works if I want to test out framework. So rather than doing a pip install step, I just have the different branches that I'm working on or something just checked out. And I just do framework dev, and I'm in my development environment and building with EasyBuild 50X, for example. If those are the branches that I've checked out here. And this is just a spark your imagination here for what you can do, but these are very simple to set up. It looks something like this. If I just go to my second test tree, now I'm building for the testing environment. If I want to go back to production, now I'm building for production. Those are very handy. Use them daily every time. But if you want even more cool stuff here, me and my colleague have been working in the past few days here, hacking together an LSP for EasyBuild. So you actually would get warnings if you use options or constants that doesn't belong in that easy block you're currently editing. It also will, in a very so far hacky way here, look for dependencies and versions. So just in case you're unsure, this is as good as it seems. Like if I'm editing this complex EasyConfig here, and I try to use pipe true, and I save this. Oops, apparently I'm 1 second. Sorry for not preparing. Yes, so I get inline errors here with hints to, did you mean to use pip extras or use pip for depths? No, I meant this one actually. This also works if I change this easy block, so saying it's not a Python bundle. Let's grab something else. Let's grab latest abacus here. Okay, so you see some stuff here is it complains over join. It's a work in progress still, but if I with Tosca is available here, but if this changed to C make, this is now unknown. So I actually do look at the actual type of easy block that we're editing and give appropriate warnings corresponding to this. So it will look at all of these parameters, and hopefully once we're done with it, it will be a bit more robust. But it also looks at names of extensions. If I'm trying to if I introduce some spelling mistakes here, I get suggestions for, no, this one doesn't even exist at all. There is no Python X. Did you mean Python? Yes, I did. But what if I wasn't sure about the version? Let's say I tried a different version here. I get suggestions that matches this toolchain version that know that this actually, that this should be number 3, or potentially it could have been an EasyBuild 2718 here. So in this case, it's number 3 here. There is some challenges with this easy block. This just makes things really difficult to resolve when I'm trying to look for just easy configs that will have the resolved EasyBuild thing. This gets pretty gnarly, but this works well, right? I'm not faking it. I can modify any of these things, and I will get appropriate warnings here. So this just really enormously helpful when I create a new easy config, and I don't remember which version of CMake was used for FOSS 2022B, right? Who remembers that? Maybe us maintainers when we create a lot of easy. So those are a couple of things that I've added to the LSP so far, but they are very hacky, and I need to also do it very quickly because it needs to be a snappy experience here. So that's all I had. I will make a little thread with the code snippets for all of this stuff in the EUM chat. So welcome to help yourself to select from there. Thank you. If anyone is saying something in the channel, I cannot hear it.
No, wait, we're getting the mic. It was charging.
Oh, right, sorry. Yes, I was just to make sure.
All right. Oh, that's very cool stuff. I think this is going to be useful for a lot of people. The Emacs crowd is a bit, yeah, they have to figure it out themselves, but that's what they deserve, I guess, for using Emacs. That's okay.
Don't you just alias Emacs?
Yeah, an alias can fix that. No, this is very cool stuff, and especially so what does LSP stand for?
It's the language server protocol. It's the same thing that all the syntax highlighting sort of code rules use in your VS Code and so on. But it can also be used as a plugin for Vim or Emacs and the rest of the editors.
So you can implement that in Python, essentially, all that logic.
Yeah, there's a Python library called PyGLS that allows you to set up a language server. And it's just a protocol over RPC where it sends some JSON about the editor just changed the document, or the editor just tried to do an autocomplete, and you basically generate the type of response. So it's most of it is parsing the easy configs and figuring out, like, you have to use tree-sitter to traverse the code because you need to be able to do this on broken code, basically, right? Because you're in the middle of editing it. So those are the challenges.
Yeah, but what you've showed is already very useful. So getting this in the hands of people would be very nice.
Yeah,
You
it's
say a
also
Python bundle, easy config, but I guess the first job is getting this on PyPy, for example, like an EasyBuild -LSP package or.
yes, it needs to be polished up quite a bit here. I mean, I spent 3 evenings here on it to make it work for this presentation.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a fake demo here. I still need to sort of resolve all the tool chain hierarchy and stuff like this. So it does tie into EasyBuild quite a bit. So it does use the EasyBuild framework to detect a lot of these things, but it's some things are expensive to do every key press. So that's the concern.
Yeah, you have to be a bit careful what you query when, but.
But typically the LSP is implemented for all the editors. It's completely asynchronously. So it doesn't hurt too much.
So it's like a service running, right? That means you can do a lot of caching when it starts up.
Yes. So this is something that people have complained about, that they want to have a persistent language server protocol. So you can make it listen to on a port. This server is currently listening on localhost port 8000. Like it's just a server, but it's there seems to be no interest upstream of making a persistent server. So I've hacked this into PyGLS together with Genshi. We figured out if we just monkey patch out the exit and shutdown commands, we can make it persist. So I do make some cache in there because it's a bit expensive to start it up every time you open Vim, right?
I'm sure there's tricks you can pull too.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool stuff. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Any questions for Mikael? I'm sure people have lots of ideas on stuff that could be implemented in this. And Jörg.
That is a very good tool. Thank you very much. You know exactly what will happen. I produce more easy config files. On a more serious note, I really like it simply because the syntax highlighting in the Vim I'm currently using is okay, but could be improvement. I was wondering when you were talking about tool chains and versions and all of that, would it make any sense to actually have a small database behind it? So you read it from a database and you just populate the database, as I showed in my talk, once, and then you've got the most latest versions. And if you do it from the GitHub development and you are, writing an easy config file, you might actually, if you keep the database up to date, you might see, oh, okay, I don't need to write that easy config file because it is already there.
Yeah, so I do cache some of this information that is more expensive to compute, but there are some sort of concerns I have with an LSP when it comes to even just parsing an easy config. That involves running arbitrary Python code. I'm not sure people are aware of this. If you put sysexit inside your EB file, EasyBuild will just exit when you try to build it. Even if you put it inside an F string these days. So I have to be careful about what I do because otherwise it just exits the server protocol, language server. So it's still, I mean, computers are really fast. The slow part is probably the traversing file system parts here. The rest of it you can do 1,000 times per second without any concern. So I'm reading everything live. Every time I save the file, I update this. That is because it's still more than fast enough, and I don't want to deal with having to invalidate some cached values.
Yeah, as long as you don't need to cache, there's no.
Yeah, but it's some of the things I set up, I cache in memory on startup, and that's why I made this server persistent. But I do want to pick up if people make new tool chains that doesn't even exist yet. So it's tricky.
Right. Very cool. Thanks a lot, Mikael.
Thank you.
Okay.